The same technique on another image. This image, we have our Lofi girl again, sitting at a desk working on a laptop. So she's got an extra laptop over here, an extra coffee cup. So it's the beauty of AI, I suppose. Maybe at the end I'll go in and work with the generative fill. If you want to see how to use Photoshop's generative fill AI feature to remove these objects, you can check out another video we have where I go through that. For the purposes of this image, I'm just going to leave those in there. So for whatever reason, she's got a couple coffee cups and she's got a couple laptops. But here's where we're starting. This is the original image that was generated in the AI application that we used to build it. And this is where we're headed. So nighttime with this image, I think, there are a couple of things that I could still do with this image, in particular adding a little bit more glow so you get a sense that the light really is emanating from the laptop. You can see, if I go in here and take, let's see, where do I have glow? I have it in the lights here, this laptop glow. You can see that it's casting some light on the front of her, but this is all about tricking the brain again, and I think there would be a little bit more light, especially this late at night, kind of glowing from the front of the screen. So that aside though, I'm not really going to worry too much about that. I'm content with this. But let's go through and look at how we achieved this effect. So here's our original image. A couple things to note. First stood out to me. We've got a daytime image here. Shadows indicate, the sun. Outside, it looks like the sun's pretty high in the sky. Looking at these shadows, it looks like maybe it's a little lower. So we've got a couple weird things going on there. I'm not really going to worry about that. What I am going to focus on is this security light here on the building. Outside is on and it's pretty bright for the time of day. Granted, it's in this little recessed area. I still feel like that's too bright. And then this glow on the headphones, I think that's fine for night to glow like that, but I would take the dim and the headphones off. But during the day, that's a little bright. So first thing I want to do is work on removing the security light. So here's where we're going with the security light, and a couple things I'll show how to tweak. But essentially what I did, I first started by cloning out the light, just a clone tool. So just remove the light source itself. Then I came in and desaturated the area. Now, if you'll notice here, the desaturation kind of bleeds into a couple of areas where it shouldn't. So I'm going to go on to the layer mask for that. Take my brush tool, reduce the brush size. I'm going to get a fairly hard edge on it. I'm going to come up, I want to take that all the way out, but I want to do it in a couple of passes. So I'm going to put my opacity at about 82%, and then I want to make sure I switch so that black is my foreground color, and then just come in and run right along that edge. So just painting that black, so we're erasing any desaturation where we don't want it to hit. And I think the side, this edge of the building here, I don't know if that's the window frame, it looks like it might be part of the building end. So I'm going to take the desaturation off this little strip. And that's pretty good. My eyes telling me I see a couple little fringe effects there, but for the most part, that's pretty good. So we've desaturated it, we've masked it out a little bit. So that's how I've approached removing this light. You could argue that the desaturation is a little bit strong here, but I'm not going to worry about that. So that's the first step, right? Changing that. The next thing is dimming these headphones. So, whoops, let me these off. Just dimming the headphones. You can see I've also changed the contrast in the image overall a little bit. It felt a little washed out. The blacks could be a little bit richer. So what I did here is, the first thing I did was simply making a little bit darker version of the layer. So I went in, created black, painted over that a little bit, and then reduced the opacity way down. And that's how I got this effect. You'll see opacity says 100% because I've what I call printed the layer, but that's how I did it. Started a new layer, painted over that with a black brush, nice and soft, and then reduced it down. I may have also changed the layer style a little bit, but it's a little muddy. You don't get that crisp clarity out of it. But if this is the first image you see for daytime, I might up the contrast on that just a little bit. So, let me do that. Just up the contrast. So if you take the contrast way up, you can see how it's way down, it's super muddy and flat. Take it way up, contrast up, reduce the brightness a little bit. So there we go. So now we've dimmed those headphones pretty significantly. When you turn it on and off like this, you can see, at least I see, there's a little dark edge right here. I'm not terribly worried about that. You can see the shadow right around it. I could feather that out. There are all kinds of techniques you can do to make that a little more precise, but I'm not going to worry about it. The end result, what we're doing with this image, the final goal, it's not really worth it to me to take time to do a lot of these really little things. If I wanted to be super precise, I would do that, but I'm going to be a little sloppy here. So, got the headphones dimmed. Then I muddied them up a little bit. I increased the brightness and contrast on it, and then used levels here. Adjusted the levels just a little bit to make it a little bit darker. So overall, the dimming effect on the headphones, I may pull the black back out. A little bit more white. So we just get the nice bright headphones, but they're not glowing. Okay. So dim the headphones, and as I said, this levels control is affecting the brightness contrast, or affecting the overall image. If I just wanted it to affect the area I'm working on, I could do that, but I don't want to. I like enhancing the image a little bit. So, all right. So from our starting image, we have removed the security light, desaturated that a little bit, and I've dimmed down the glow on the headphones, and at the same time tweaked the contrast in the overall image a little bit. So the next step now is the ambient light, and is to make this thing look like it's dark, like it's evening. Okay, so you can see already that by just doing that, there's already some glow from these headphones. If I take the dimming of the headphones off, it not only makes it glow, but it brought some of the light back into the room. Again, something I could go in and tweak, but it's not really worth it given the end result and the plan for this image to really worry about that. So I'm fine with taking off the dimming of the headphones and then adjusting the ambient light. Let's look at how I did that. The ambient light, if I take everything out, same as before, this is an adjustment layer. I went down to here to color lookup. I went to my 3D LUT option, and I selected moonlight. It's going to duplicate it now, right? So it's added it again. If I take this off, you'll see that's how I got that moonlight effect. I've also gone in and done some masking. So if I take that off, you see for this moonlight effect, I've started to pull back the darkness on the headphones and on the security light, because those are on now, right? So you can see that. So there's a little bit going on there. Then let me get rid of this there, so I'm not confused. There's a late night option like we did before. I'll get into that in a second. But the moonlight ambiance, I've gone in and enhanced the light here in these areas, masked out a little bit. See where I've masked things? So we're just getting that slightly enhanced glow on the backs of the shelves here, this bulletin board, the edges of these cups, right? Just tweak it a little bit. The headphone glow, I've made it a little more intense, especially for late night, right? So if I turned on my late night without, let's see, with my lights, you get this really strange effect. Obviously, there's a lot more tweaking and you can really see some of the masking brush strokes I've done there. So I haven't gone into that too much. But let me turn the lights off. So here's where we're at. We've got our evening in here, added the moonlight ambiance, and I've made these headphones glow quite a bit. Come in here to levels, do a little bit of tweaking overall, and then I'm not sure what that is. Nothing on it, so bye-bye. All right, so that's our ambient. Now we've gone from, I can hide this because it's with the ambient light, we want that security light to be on. Before we take it off, light goes down, that light comes on, we start to glow. The next step is adding in the lights. And here, if I turn it on, you can see what I've done there. Okay, so it's a little bit darker now. You can see, obviously, the building lights come on. The glow from that security light is much more pronounced. The headphone light appears much brighter. I haven't adjusted it all, but since the ambient light's darker, that makes the contrast sharper. And then we've got this kind of uplighting on her face from the laptop, right? So you get that kind of ghost effect. So let's look at what I've done here. We've got a laptop glow, again, that's casting light over the front of her, some glow on her hands, right? So her hands are right in front of that screen, so you get that. And here you can see, if I hide the mask, I just painted in my brush with color in there. Nice soft edge brush, low opacity, and then I've masked out to get to really kind of control that light. The masking I've done, you can see I've masked in here. I've added shadows on the edge of her palm and between the fingers. I cut all the light out from behind the laptop so that it's really directional. I cut out a lot of that ambient light here. And then I really went in and brushed in her face, particularly in these areas where if you've ever taken a flashlight and held it under your chin, you know that that light hits those hard edges, and the contrast is super, super intense. So I wanted to replicate that look. So that's what I've done there. And you can still see some brush strokes in here. I mean, it's a little dirty. It looks like she's got some dirt on her face or something. But again, I'm not really worried about it too much because overall, the effect is pretty good. I've also added, let's see, the security light glow. This is that layer. And if I take the mask off, you can see, particularly down in here, there's a little bit of masking. But what I've done is just made sure that edge hits the inside of this frame here. I guess it is this window. And then this ledge right here, technically that light may not be quite high enough to cast that bright of a highlight on that edge. If I want to, I can, again, using my mask, take my brush, make sure I've got a nice soft edge of my brush, reduce the opacity way down to like 6%, make it a little bit bigger. Then I can do a few passes over this and knock that back a little bit. I'm not terribly concerned about it. I'm sorry, that was a laptop glow. Knock it back a little bit, right? So there we have it. But you can see when I toggle this on and off, get that nice glow from the security light. And actually, now that I do that, it's a good technique that I like to use, toggling these on and off so you can really see what's being affected. So I can see, let me go up to 100% opacity and make a nice hard edge. And I can see the light's not really going to wrap around this like that, right? Coming from that direction. So I'm going to cut that. I'm going to bring it back in here because it would fade over there a little bit. One other area that really stands out to me is this edge here. The light is tucked under that, so the light's not going to come and wrap around onto the front face of this. So make sure my brush is black and 100%, and you can really see that edge, right? Like that. And actually, I think that's like this. That little lip will get, let me soften the edge a little bit. This little lip will get some light glowing on it. You can see where I stopped with the brush. So it's just a matter, again, we're tricking the brain, right? So it seems really pronounced now that I've gone in and highlighted that. So what I'm going to do is reduce my opacity, soft brush. I'm going to add just a tinge, just to make that, you know, light has an interesting way of bouncing off surfaces and then diffusing, or that'd be fragmenting. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it may appear like it wraps up that a little bit when it's actually not wrapping up the edge. It's just kind of glowing from that edge. So I think that's a little more believable to me, right? So again, it's not perfect. You know, given the fact that I'm creating this and I'm toggling this on and off, my brain knows kind of the secret. So it's a little bit harder to believe, but you know, if I go to sleep tonight, open this up again tomorrow, I'll look at it and be like, oh yeah, it totally looks good. So I also have some issues with the way these are glowing up here, but not worth spending the time to go in this weekend. The payoff's just not there. So that's our lights. So I've done that. Right? Got this up light on her chin, bottom lip, or below her bottom lip, on her top lip, on her nose there, up in the eye, tops of the eye sockets here. You know, the underneath the hair would also have some, probably some edge lights, some different things going on, but we've already covered that. I'm not going to do that. So there's the end result, right? I am happy with this. Here's where we started. I made a few little adjustments. I made a few little adjustments here, dimming those headphones down, pumping up the contrast, removing that security light, then we adjusted the ambient light, and then we added in the lights for the effect. So there we have it, same technique on a different image. Obviously, the more you do this, the better you get. I would not consider myself an illustrator. So for me, it's really learning about how to draw and paint with light. And as I go along, I'm sure that I will get better and better. One thing I may change on this, the face, the brush strokes and the unevenness is really kind of bugging me. So let me do, that's the laptop glow. Let me even that out a little bit, right? I'll get in here with the laptop glow, go into my mask, take my brush, and it's the dark areas. I can see dark streaks in there. So it's like these little pockets of light, the speckled kind of light that's really driving me nuts. So I think what I'm going to do is lighten those. So to lighten it, I'm using a white. I'm on my mask, white, so it shows up. I've got my opacity set at 14%. I want a really soft brush, and you can see the opacity is too high because I can see it's having a much more drastic effect than what I really want. So let me undo that. Set the opacity down 4%. So now when I come in here and paint, and I may zoom out a little bit, make my brush a little bigger so we can see what's happening. So it's really making that start to glow on her face, bringing it out. So that's too much. So I'm going to come in here, even that out by darkening. Raw, darkening it in here. And this is where you can spend a whole lot of time, especially if you are not a skilled or trained illustrator, which I'm not, can really spend a lot of time kind of A/B testing, going back and forth, right? So now I'm going to reduce my brush, go back to bringing in light, really reducing it, coming to this edge, and make that stand out. This top lid, that glow, this bottom lid, that edge. Increase my brush, hit the tops of these eye sockets again. Eyes. I think what I'll do for the eyes is actually switch to, if you've ever used photography, if you're familiar with the dodge and burn tool, this is a super powerful, very powerful tool, especially for controlling exposure after the fact. So I'm going to take my dodge tool, set it to my highlights, and exposures at 4, which I'm happy with that. Just come in here, hit these hot areas in the eyes, because those, especially if she was looking at this laptop screen, for example, these would really be bright. You know, she would have catch lights in her eyes. They would be really bright. So I'm looking at the shadows here and really brighten this edge a little bit. Right. So there we go. So overall, I'm content with this. I think that's fine. You know, if I get in here and nitpick, I can certainly do that. But if we look at where we started, just have to do it that way. Where we started versus where we ended up. I'm happy with that. So by all means, if you have suggestions, there are a lot of techniques you can use that are a lot faster, I have no doubt. Leave me a comment down below. I'd be more than happy to. I'm always willing to learn and always looking to learn. So let me know your thoughts. And be sure to subscribe to our channel so you can continue to see content.